Yes.
Okay. So just a reminder to councillors, if you're not speaking, just mute your participation, and that will help all of us hear clearly the person speaking. Okay. Declarations of interest, and Councillor Brown is declaring a financial interest. Have we got that there, Greg? With respect to the Outer Ring Road item, and the way that we control that is Greg will actually park Councillor Brown in the waiting room, so he won't be able to hear the discussion. We've got lots of blank pages, that's all right. It's okay, we'll go back up. Oh, you're right there. There we go. Are there any other declarations of interest, councillors?
Yes, sir, I put one in.
Councillor McCleary.
Councillor McCleary. Yes, on excuse me, sorry, 11.4.3. That was sent, emailed in to our executive and to you. You got that there, Mr.
11 point. Which one was it?
11.4.3.
The Motor Museum.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Is that a impartiality interest or a financial interest?
No, just an impartiality.
Impartiality.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, 11.1.1. Any questions regarding the amendments to the terms of reference?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor McCreary.
The terms of reference that YAC are changing number 2 to advise council on the development of policies that is responsive to the needs of youth. I'd like to know why it's been removed, because I believe by retaining this term of reference and by including a member of the YAC selected by YAC to be on the council policy committee will be a wonderful learning opportunity for one of the members of YAC. Could this be considered for future, even without the term of reference? Because we are mentors and this is what we do. So I would like an answer to that.
Who was that, sorry?
That was Councillor McCleary.
Yeah, did someone else speak? No, I'll flick this to Mr. Barber. Can you give a response to that, please, Gary?
I'd have to take it on notice, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay. I'll have to look into that one.
Okay, thank you. If you get back to us before next Tuesday, that'll be great. Any further questions, Councillor McCleary? We move on. 11.1.2. Any questions, councillors? Thank you. We move on. 11.3.1. Any questions regarding the schedule of accounts paid? Thank you. Councillor Brown, we're just going to put you in the waiting room. Is he gone? Good. 11.4.1, councillors, any questions regarding this matter?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Smith.
Thank you. Has Main Roads agreed to all of the recommendations made by our executive team?
Mr. Barber?
Mr. Mayor, the Main Roads requested all of those conditions effectively. So they sent us a letter with their request and the process that they would like us to follow, and we have followed that. So yes, we are in agreement.
Okay, and can I just ask a little question? Not that it matters. Why was the paragraph on Dardanup removed? Were we not allowed to see what that was?
It doesn't come into the City of Bunbury responsibility. I'd imagine.
Still would have been interesting to know what it was. Thank you.
Give Councillor Bennett a ring.
Yeah.
Any further questions on this matter, councillors?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I've just got a question. I'm just wondering
Mr.
about how our relationship with Main Roads is travelling in terms of, well, obviously around this Outer Ring Road, we've had a bit of argy-bargy with them. And also whether we've had any recent discussions with them around the bridge that's required for the Davenport extension whether we've had any recent conversations with them about that, and just generally whether they're any more friendly towards us in terms of being able to have some conversations.
Yeah, Mr. Harris, would you mind responding?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. No, look, our relationship with Main Roads is good as always. I think it's a sort of project where you're not necessarily going to have 100% agreement on, but you're still able to discuss issues when they arise with Main Roads. So at this particular time, relationship's good. In regards to the Davenport link, no, there's been no further discussion on it. It's not part of the project at this particular time. The last discussion I had with them, they were trying to fast track part of the project, I suppose, to get it moving a bit quicker. And there was some issues around the budget and the ability to build every aspect of the interchanges on it. So I'm expecting we'll get a bit more information back from them shortly about one or two of those interchanges may not be able to be built to their full potential in the actual first stage. So that's pretty well where we're sitting at this time.
Councillor Hayward, any further questions?
No, that's fine. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Anybody else got any questions on this matter?
Yes, please. Can you explain what part they were supposed to be fast tracking?
Mr. Harris, are you familiar with that?
Not aware of the exact point. I presume at this stage it may be the northern section. I think they're trying to fast track some of the design work in that at the moment. So if there's an opportunity to commence once the environmentals prove that they're actually ready to go sooner rather than later on it.
So it's Main Roads fast tracking.
It's their project.
Yep.
So I think like any of their projects at the moment, they're investigating ways in which they can be brought forward if it's possible.
My understanding is they're down to 2 preferred tenderers, and they'll be making a decision perhaps around October, November this year as to their preferred tenderer. So once that's done, they can really start to crack on with this. Any further questions, councillors? Okay, we'll re-invite Councillor Brown. Okay, we're back on, thanks.
Can you hear me, Mr Mayor?
I can, Councillor Steck.
Thank you, because I just went to say something before and I've just worked out I was muted, so that's okay.
Okay, we're on to 11.42.
Yes, thank you.
After a couple of decades at least, it's good to see we're at this stage. But are there any questions regarding this management plan? I presume that all of us received a copy of the plan that was emailed out last week. Any questions?
I have one, Mr Mayor, if I may.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, I have no objection to any of this, but just curious over the inclusion of Anglesey Island. And the other question I've got is Kalgoorlie Regional Park. Does anyone know what that, obviously a Noongar name, but who chose that? Does anyone know?
Yeah, it's in the report, Councillor Smith.
Okay.
It is an agreed name between the various Noongar groups.
Okay.
And it means place of fires or camping fires. So this park area included areas that were traditionally used for camping, hunting and fishing.
Okay, well, that's nice. And the Anglesey Island, why is that being included? Because it seems a bit removed from the rest of it.
Yeah.
I've no objection, it's fine, but, you know, I'm just curious.
Yep.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Smith, where is Anglesey Island? I'm not familiar with that without a map in front of me.
Well, it's in the inlet inside our area next to the rowing club and there.
It's just, yeah, we call it Pig Island. It's just adjacent to the Kambana Walk.
Yeah, walk, yeah.
It's separated by water most of the
Yeah.
time, Gary.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's just high quality vegetation and the mangroves are fairly significant. So
Good, thank you. Yeah, that's
was
good. Thank you.
done through their environmental investigations.
Yeah, good. Thank you. That's good.
Yes, sir. I have questions.
Yes, Councillor McCleary.
Well, once again, I'm in support of it, but I just wanted to know why Turkey Point didn't get included. I had 3 questions. First one.
Yeah, I thought Turkey Point was, but I'll ask Mr. Barber if you can have a look at the map. Mr. Barber,
I think most of Turkey Point was. There's been a lot of discussions along the way as to what is high quality vegetation, what should be part of the park, what needs to be continued to be managed by the city as recreation areas. So there's been some adjustments along the way, but the maps as they stand are the agreed position between the city executive and DBCA at this point.
Oh, when I was looking today, looking at the list, it definitely says that there's 3 lots that have gone right down and Turkey Point isn't included. So if you could check that back and get back to me, I'd appreciate it. Also, the rifle range, what part of that? Because the airstrip, what part of that's not, is it butting onto our emergency helicopter patch? Just about where is that? They're going to be taking the part of the old rifle range.
Yeah, it's part of Mania Park, and there was yeah, perhaps Mr. Barber, if you can explain, there is a regional map on DCS 7, Appendix DCS 7, we might have a quick look at, but
Let's work it out. I did look, but I couldn't.
The old rifle range along Bustle Highway.
It's not that one.
A clay target set up adjacent to the airport some time ago, and I think that's now no longer operating. Mr. Barber?
Through Mr. Mayor, hard to describe graphically, but it doesn't impact any of the airport land holdings. So the recent airport master plan that was put up to council for information, it doesn't impact any of those land holdings. It's all the land immediately to the west of it and north of the prison.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, that gives me a better understanding. And in Usher, there's 3 blocks that are privately owned. Is that for future housing? And that's my last question. Thank you.
Mr. Barber?
Are you referring to privately owned lots within the regional park? Sorry.
Correct. It says Usher, 3 blocks are privately owned and subject to future planning considerations. Does that mean for housing?
It would be land that has high quality vegetation on it, that they would be anticipating that through the planning process, that land would be ceded back to the state to preserve that vegetation.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I just asked one further question on that. Within relation to the rifle range, we used to abut the airport. There was a lot of problems through CASA, through a lot of the, I guess, debris from the, shots being fired. Was that part of the close down to incorporate it into the park, or how did the actual rifle range end up closing?
Well, there's a lot of history there, Councillor Steck, but Mr. Barber, you may be able to answer that.
Answer how it closed, only that if there was remnant lead shot or anything like that, it would have been flagged as a contaminated site and would have gone through a process. But my understanding is at the moment it's not considered a contaminated site. It's got vegetation on it, and the DBCA feel it's appropriate to be part of their park.
So, because that was the one thing that I'm sorry to continue, but it was the one thing that, I raised eyebrows on, because it was quite a non-high vegetated area, and it was just an issue for CASA and the airport. So I was perplexed why it was included in the park.
Okay, any further questions, councillors?
Yes, I have one.
Councillor Brown?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, in relation to the Southwest Sports Centre and fire management, and in particular the fire break on the eastern boundary of Lot 3001, will the transfer affect the negotiations to create an effective fire break against the Southwest Sports Centre?
Mr. Barber?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Brown. No, so we've had ongoing discussions with DBCA over what they would be prepared to allow us to clear at a high level, I guess. That also provides the required protection for the Southwest Sports Centre. And through that negotiation, the boundary of the proposed regional park has actually been adjusted slightly. So there has been some areas identified that previously were within the regional park that have been adjusted to exclude them from the regional park. And now DBCA are currently working with us to get the required clearing permits to do the clearing, and then a all-weather surface track and some retaining will be installed. So the project's continuing and this process hasn't impacted it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions, councillors?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councillor Plum.
I note the report says that the aim is for this to be a cost neutral venture, but is there any chance there was some potential cost ongoing for the maintenance of the drainage system? Is there any chance that the state would contribute to that, or is it a simple case of our asset, our problem?
I'd like to ask Mr. Harris if he'd like to make comment on our infrastructure, ongoing infrastructure maintenance within the park.
Mr. Mayor, we currently maintain those drains, so they're part of our general maintenance program. Part of the reason for having them subdivided out is actually to allow us to continue to keep them in a clean condition without having to go through maybe some of the necessary environmental issues, as they are sort of an integral part of drainage, not only for ourselves, but also for the adjoining Dalyellup area as well.
Okay. So the answer is yes, Councillor Plum. Further questions? Okay, thank you very much, councillors and execs. Yeah, no, that's okay.
Is that it?
No, just bear with me, councillors. What have we got left? The confidential item.
We have the 10.4.3, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Motor Museum. Is that next, Greg? Yes. Okay, look, we'll. Here we go. Thank you. So, Councillor McCreary, you've declared an impartiality interest on this matter. That's fine. Questions, councillors?
Yes, sir.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor McCreary.
Thank you. By next week, could we have the complete list of the museum management group and the names of those who represent? And that's my first question, because I'd like to know whom I'm agreeing, even though it's just an MOU. I would like to know whom I'm talking to.
Yeah, that may not be forthcoming. It's not critical to our deliberations at the moment. Once we get to the lease, they'd need to show us who's on their committee.
Well, Well,
CEO,
sorry.
CEO there.
My only concern, Mr. Mayor, is I may have business contacts, or any of us may do, and later on down the track, we would have voted on something and not knowing if there was an interest to be declared.
Mr. Mayor, can I just be a point of order with this? Because quite frankly, any other time that we've done an MOU or entered into an agreement with a community organisation, we only ever have the CEO or the president or the secretary that we deal with. We don't know all the club members any time. The executive team does, but we don't, Mr. Mayor.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. This is not a club.
Yeah, coming back to your
not
question.
An organised.
If
not a
you-
not-for-profit organisation. These are individual businessmen that haven't formed any sort of club or.
Point of order, sir. Doesn't the MOU ask them to be a not-for-profit organisation?
Councillors, just take a deep breath for a second. Can you just cut that, Greg? Let me just come back to Councillor McCreary's main concern with this, and that is the unknown of whether people that will be on the committee eventually are people that she may have business dealings with now as an elected member. If that is the case and you find out down the track, it's a reasonable position for you to hold that at the time of making this decision, you were not aware of those persons being involved when you made the decision next Tuesday or whenever it might be. So you're okay from that point of view, Councillor McCreary?
Okay, second question.
Yep.
Sorry, just a clarification. I would have thought that in order to declare a financial interest, you would have to have demonstrated that you were going to get a financial benefit from making this decision, irrelevant of whether you know or have dealings with individuals in a non-profit organisation.
Yeah, financial benefit or financial loss, yeah. Okay, I think Councillor McCreary is ready to go on with the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to bring our attention to the clause, redevelopment clause B, where it says, here we go down, the city commits, okay, then the city's budget to operate the motor museum on or before the end of notice. The city agrees to provide the agreed premises ready to occupy by the manager. So my understanding of that particular sentence is if the building that has been chosen, it has just a membrane, say it's like a warehouse with nothing in it, it'll be the responsibility, is that what it's saying, of the city to totally set it up, wire it up, etc., for the motor museum? Is that what that is saying? Thank you. So
what it also says is that the council of the day will make a decision if they're going to contribute, and if so, how much. And that has been the whole sticking point. So that is now very clear. The management group notes the financial implications will require the endorsement of the sitting council. So if the council day doesn't want to do all that, Councillor McCreary, then it won't. There's no obligation.
Well, I find that a bit inept of us to even have it put in there then. But I rest.
That was a sticking point in this whole discussion. Anyway, hold that thought for next Tuesday. Did you have another question, Councillor McCreary?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Other councillors?
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Giles, I'd like to ask a question, please.
Go ahead, please.
The option 3, hang on, lost it now. The recommendation 3, I think it was. Where are we? Right at the end here. Yes, there were 3 choices of recommendation. Okay, 3. That's the one. Thank you. There was an opportunity there to put in an amount that the council was prepared to just make up a figure, say $50,000, an upper limit. So would that be the same though in that option 3, where it gives that opportunity? Does that mean that the council of the day would also have the opportunity then to say, oh, well, we've said 50,000, but you're doing so well, we might give you 100? I mean, is that not the same sort of thing?
Yeah, during discussions, Councillor Giles, that was one of the options that we put to Mr. Stubber. And he said that the management group rejected any dollar amount that might be put into this draft MOU. And that's why we've come back to this catch-all clause to say, well, the council of the day will decide how much it's going to contribute, if anything.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Because we put last week's agenda item on the table, why is that not showing up in here? Just because that's what the motor group don't want, we put on the table last week's. Oh, I see. Sorry, beg your pardon, you've pulled down now. Thank you.
Yep.
I take it all back.
Further questions, councillors?
Just one, please, Mr. Minister, a very small point. I know, but when it says, I'm sure people with better legal advice than me will have looked at this, but it says that this clause will require the endorsement of the sitting council. Do we need to make that more specific? Because we are the sitting council at the moment.
Yeah, it's a
So
sitting
council. That sounds a bit ambiguous to me. Which sitting council?
Well, you need to read the whole clause prior to that, and it says that in the event that the council of the day, it doesn't say in the event there's a revocation. If in the event there is a revocation, then the sitting council will determine how much, if any, it will contribute to the fit out of the building.
Yeah, okay. As long as that's really clear, that's the city council.
That's my shorthand.
Yeah. Okay.
Further
thank you.
questions?
I have a question,
Councillor
Brown. So the three options that we had last week are now no longer on the table. It's just the executive recommendation that we've got sitting in front of us.
The executive recommendation is what I'll put to next week's council meeting. If that's defeated, then we can move to those other options should that be highlighted by anyone during the debate.
Okay, thank you.
Did we actually, Councillor Steele, but did we actually last week in the agenda have an executive recommendation? I don't think we did. We just had the three choices. So we have to bring back the agenda item that was put on the table last week.
We've now got an executive recommendation.
But you can't change that, Mr. Mayor, because we didn't lay that on the table last week. What we laid on the table was last week's agenda item. So that's the agenda item that needs to be brought back.
And the events of the past week have overtaken that.
That's against the actual, that's against standing orders. Standing orders say we have to bring back, if you lay something on the table, you need to bring back what you've laid on the table.
Well,
you can't change because of what a group has asked us to do. We have to go still by our standing orders.
Well, you can challenge me next week on that, Councillor Steele, but I'm very comfortable with what I've just said.
I don't want to challenge you in over there. I'm quite happy to put that through to the local government, but that is what our standing orders say.
No, I'm getting a shake of the head from our governance manager. Go ahead. I'll invite Mr. Galinsky to make comment.
Just thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just in clarification to Councillor Steele's comment, so the matter last council meeting was actually deferred as opposed to debate being adjourned. So there was no motion moved as such. If there was a motion moved, then that motion would come back to the next sitting of council when the matter was reconsidered. But the whole item was only deferred. So they're two separate aspects of the standing order. So the Mayor's correct.
Thank you.
Further questions? Thank you, councillors. We'll move on. Okay, now I'm getting to Mr. Galinsky. I've got a little note of here live on YouTube. Is that so? It's not the case. We are live. So can we? Yep.